Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is the Alan Baker Show, and I am Alan Baker. And today we're going to be continuing on a series that we've been doing with the cast on life's rules of engagement. And this one is going to be the fourth one in the series. And what we're going to cover is cultivating your inner circle. My name is Alan Baker. I am a lifelong martial artist. I escaped the system as a young man to follow my dreams. And along that journey, I forged a mindset of accomplishment. This allowed me to achieve things that even I didn't think was possible. And sometimes I look back and still am surprised at what I have done in life. On this show, we're going to talk about those things and the mind tools that I learned from my different mentors and how they can help you move forward in your life, separate from the system, and achieve great things. Okay, the topic we are going to discuss, cultivating your network or your inner circle. One of the things that comes to my mind immediately is Mr. John Musser. And John is the chief instructor at the Executive Protection Institute. I've been very fortunate to be involved with EPI probably for 14 years now. I get to go up, and what they do is they have a week-long bodyguard school. And during this week, they probably teach for 100 to 110 hours. So it's a lot of time in 7 days. But I get to go up for this school every 6 months. And I always try to sit in the classes as often as I can, because every time I learn something. And of course, I try to maintain that white belt mentality, the perpetual student, and which leads me to the discussion about John. John teaches a large portion of the classes at EPI. And in relation to this topic, one of the things he teaches, generally this topic will come up on a Tuesday night, and this is after the guys have been sleep deprived for 2 days. But he'll discuss something called the Dark Triad. And I really never had heard of this until John turned me on to it. And then I started to kind of look into it a little more. It is a really interesting study. If you have not looked into it, especially on today's topic, you should check it out. And what it refers to is 3 personality types in psychiatry. The narcissist, the Machiavellian, and the psychopath. And these 3 personalities they have very dark traits, which leads to the name of putting them together in the Dark Triad. And one of the reasons I discuss this on this topic is because when I learned this from John, when I sat in on his class, and this is a great thing about Mr. Musser, is every time you go, it's different. He is a perpetual teacher. He constantly polishes what he does and brings more information every class. So I'm very fortunate to be sitting in the back during these classes and taking notes. But when I first got introduced to it, these personality types have traits that follow them, and it's important to recognize those traits and be aware of them, because one of the things we're discussing is cultivating or growing your network. And I refer to the closest ring of people around you as your inner circle. These are people that you're around every day, you interact with every day. And due to that, they have a huge influence on your life, your development, where you're going, your attitude, everything. So taking into consideration those traits that the Dark Triad teaches us, it gives us a list of things we can keep an eye out for. And you become more aware of these things in other people. And it can help you see things or see red flags a little sooner. And, one of the reasons they learn this in the protection industry is because A lot of guys that go through that school end up running protection teams for clients, and they have to hire individuals to work in and around this client. And it is a very sensitive environment to work in. So you have to be able to hire the right individual, and you have to be able to determine who you have in front of you. So that's one of the reasons Coach Musser would teach this information, is to help the students of this school, when they get to the position when they're starting to hire people or bring people into their sphere, they can do it with more information. They can make better decisions because they know more about these personality types and what to look for. Well, the same thing for me goes for looking at your inner circle or any of the concentric rings of relationship that surround you. It's important to know those things and keep an eye out and be aware, because I tell you, and I've learned this in life, I've seen it in other people's journeys, the wrong person close to you can have a negative effect. And a lot of times it will have an effect that you're not even aware of. It may take you years to be aware of it, or catch wind of what is going on with that person. So to go back to the original topic, it's called the Dark Triad, and it is definitely worth checking out if you haven't. I highly suggest looking it up. And one of the things I mentioned earlier was concentric rings of relationship. And I hear this terminology used in the protection industry as well. They will say concentric rings of protection that you can build around your client. Well, you could do the same thing for yourself, and you can arrange your network of individuals that are around you. So I mentioned the inner circle might be that innermost group of people. And then, there may be another circle that's one step out from you as far as relationships. There may be another one that is another additional step out from you as far as relationships. There's no set way to set this up. You can set it up any way you want. But I like to take a look at each one of those. You can determine what they're going to be and how they're arranged, but you can also determine in advance what your boundaries and expectations are going to be for each of these rings. And you don't necessarily have to keep personality types or people in mind when you sit down to do this. You can just say, for someone that is going to be very close to me, and I can define that closeness. This is a person that could call me up and say, hey, I need some help doing something. I'll drop everything and I'll go help them. That generally is my inner circle. I consider them family. They're very close to me. And part of being in that network or that area of relationship is I make a lot of effort to maintain communication, to spend time with them. So the people that I put into that or I allow into that circle additionally have a tremendous amount of influence on me. And they can have a tremendous amount of influence on where you go in life. So with that said, you could sit down before ever thinking about who's going to be on that ring of relationship. You set your boundaries and your expectations. This is what I expect. This is what I will not tolerate from a person who is at this closeness of a relationship. So in advance, regardless of personality type, before we ever get to who goes where. And then you can do the same thing with each ring. Someone that is out on this ring, these are my boundaries. These are my expectations. Now, additionally, I like to say that I'm considering this and who I allow to have proximity to me. But also, I like to say what would make them want to have proximity to me. It's like, do I spend the appropriate amount of time? Am I available to them? Do I put in the extra effort to maintain a high-level relationship? And I should. It should be a equally valuable experience for them as well. For this podcast, for the sake of discussion, we're just kind of looking at those expectations, those boundaries on placement, if I allow someone into that range. And another term comes to mind while I'm talking about this, and it's a term that is arm's reach or at arm's reach. Again, this is another term we use in the protection industry. A lot of times when you are protecting a client and you may be working for a team. You may have a driver, you may have an advance agent, and then you generally will have someone who is a body agent. They're the person that it works closest to the client. And generally speaking, when they are moving about, the body agent will stay within an arm's reach of that client. Now, this also can vary depending on the level of threat. But one of the reasons why they want to do that is because the closer they are, the more proximity they have to the client, the quicker they can influence the client, move them, make adjustments if something happens. One of the main things, if chaos kicks off, they want to get their client out of there. They want to move them quickly. And in order to do that, you need to have proximity. So the example is proximity allows you to have an effect. It allows the individuals that are in proximity to you to have an effect on you and vice versa. So when we choose to allow proximity, we have to take that into consideration and we have to choose intelligently. So, you may have someone that is on that inner circle and you say you write out these boundaries, you set these expectations, then you sit down and realize, man, this person is closer than they should be. And I might have to move them back. Now, they might not even realize this is happening. And to be honest, most of the people in my experience that I have had this talk with didn't even know it was happening because, their level of interest in being in that proximity may not have been what you expected it to be. They may not even notice the change. But I've got to say, there's different elements to conditioning that inner circle or any of them. And one of them is removing people. And, for me, when I got introduced to this idea, actually from several mentors, both entrepreneurial, obviously Coach Musser in the protection industry. I've had teachers in the martial arts discuss this topic as well. One of the first things all of them talked about was having the ability to remove certain toxic personalities, certain personalities that were having a negative effect. And, sometimes that can be a little difficult because these may be individuals that you've had long-term relationships with. But it is a powerful skill to be able to do it. And I can sit here and vouch for that straight up because I've seen it in my life. I've also seen it in lives of many people that I've coached on this topic. So, developing the ability to move them back or remove them entirely. And, one of the things that you can look at when you're doing that, you set those boundaries and expectations. What will tell you the truth is their actions. There will be a lot of words, but take the time to sit down and specifically look at what actions they're taking. And that generally will tell you everything you need to know, whether you want to know it or not. And I say that because sometimes you'll see it and choose not to believe it. And sometimes it will take several showings from different individuals before you finally realize, well, this is what this person is telling me with their actions. It doesn't necessarily match what they're saying, but, there lies the truth. And then you move past that, adding people to that circle. And if removing those personalities from the circle is going to have a certain amount of effect on your journey, your life, where you're going, what you're achieving, I will say this: adding the right personalities, meeting the right individuals, and gaining proximity is going to multiply the effect tenfold. One positive personality will have a huge effect on where you're going in your journey. Two, same thing. So when you get to the point where you're choosing individuals to allow in that proximity, to bring into your world, choose wisely, and choose based on what you have set previously. Like we mentioned earlier, those requirements, those boundaries. What do you expect in advance, regardless of the person? And this kind of gives you something to look for as you are moving through life. Now, you don't have to put people in there. Actually, you could just remove the wrong ones and have a tremendous effect. Life will change in a positive fashion. And, sometimes it's better, in my opinion, in my experience, to not have many at all if you can't find the right ones. That's okay. It actually still has a positive effect on life. But again, you have to adjust this accordingly to you and what your goals are, your personality, your belief systems. So that introduces the idea of, building the inner circle, which kind of goes on today's topic of cultivating your inner circle as far as a governing rule on your journey. Okay, that is basically what I wanted to share today, was that information. Hopefully you guys got some value out of it, and if you did, please let me know. Shoot me a comment. Feel free to get in touch with me if you like. If there's information that you would like to hear covered and you do not, do the same. Get in touch with me and let me know. I've actually got a tremendous amount of feedback lately since I've been doing this, and got some great ideas for discussions and topics moving forward. So I really appreciate the feedback, and all of the communication I've been getting has been fantastic. So this was one of the series of podcasts on life's rules of engagement, and this was Cultivating Your Inner Circle. The next one we're going to take a look at is called Finding Your Academy, and we're going to discuss a little bit about, if you don't have martial arts in your life or something of that sort, how to find it and how to implement it correctly, how to find a decent teacher, and how to start to make that part of your life habits. Okay, guys, I'll see you at the next one. All right, guys, we'll take a little break here just to say, if you are getting value out of the show and you're enjoying it, please give us a like and subscribe so that we can keep you in the loop on new episodes that we're going to be releasing in the future. We are working on a lot of cool content going into the new year for you guys, and we want to be able to let you know when we are releasing new information. Also, if you know anyone that would value or get value out of this show, please share us with them and hopefully help our audience grow so that we can reach more people. Hey guys, one of the things that we do as an organization is we build video archives for individuals who are looking for training that can't necessarily find an instructor that is close to them. And we have 3 that we have built on that website now. I've discussed them in the past, but there are options if you can't find a good instructor that you can use to gain some information and do some training on your own, or with a partner or a training group that you put together yourself. Now, additionally, we're also in the process of putting together some hosted events that we're going to host next year. This is something that I've not done in the past. Most of the time when I go and teach or I put a program on, it is hosted by someone else. They bring me in, so they determine whether it is open to the public or not. And most of the time, the tactical information isn't. It's generally a closed agency or a closed protection team. But next year, we're going to be putting some on ourselves so they'll be open to the public. So both of those things you can find on the website if you are looking for that type of information. The website is sifuallenbaker.com, and go over and check it out if that is something that you are looking for currently.